it's N55 Morris back for another video, and one that covers a very uncommon mod, especially on stock turbo cars. However, if you guys do know me, I'm one for deal hunting, and I found this is a really good price. And as we know that this specific mod, they say, opens up the top end of these cars, which is very good since they're very geared and powered for that mid-range power. Only one other video I've watched on this, I believe his name is Fritz, so his M235i, but now we're going to be tackling the same thing on my 335i, which is also X-Drive, so it gives it a little more challenge to get the job done. However, you know, here on this channel, we get everything done. So I'll give you guys a walkthrough of what needs to get done and some heads up. In front of us, you do see now the turbo inlet that we will be installing. What's great about this one, it has metal compared to some like MST, which is silicone. That is great for maneuverability, but I think for sound and ultimate durability, I do prefer a metal one. And plus, it just gives it a better look. However, a shout out to Fritz once again. What he demonstrated is that this coupler is actually too small. So as you can see, the only way to make it fit is actually need some customization. So I just took almost a potato peeler as well with a knife to try to open it up and reduce some of the rubber inside. I did try that with the stock airbox as well as an aftermarket airbox we will be installing later on this channel. So that is one that is definitely problem confirmed. Another one, he did say that the welds on this side is a little bit too thick. As you know, there is no bolt that goes down, as there's only 2 to 3 bolts that hold this turbo inlet in place. This is just a push friction fitting, and I have absolutely no problem with that, especially with me being an X-Drive and more of a fight. However, if this doesn't fully seat with no bolt, of course that will lead to a problem. So I will be demonstrating it with this on there, but in the future I will be replacing this as well once I confirm the measurements between this and the aftermarket air intake system. But for now, we will get to installing the now BMS turbo inlet. Once again, I believe there only are 3 bolts holding in the turbo inlet. There is I believe a T20. I'll make sure to annotate the correct one if I am wrong. Screw going into the turbo inlet that is connected to the positive crankcase ventilation system. There is a 10mm out back. Let the camera focus. As we can see right there, that will need to be removed. And lastly, this 10mm screw. As you know, this will now need some finesse, findangling, and hopefully some right attachments to get these bolts out. But there's nothing but common hand tools and some willpower that can remove everything that is needed. So without further ado, let's get started. Removing the T20 is quite the tight space, as you imagine the N55. So this is a 1/4 inch ratchet, and a 1/4 inch to 3/8 and 3/8 to 1/4 inch again, and then I believe a 6 inch and a 3 inch. This should buy me enough space. Don't know if the camera will be able to capture it, but to get the torque spit down there. I know you can't see it, but it is spinning ever so slightly. You hear the one click at a time. So I'm just going to work like that and then slowly get that one bolt out, and that should be the 1 out of the 3. After you remove the T20, you should use a long flathead screwdriver like I did, and you should be able to pop the return for the PCV system. That should then free up some space to get the 10mm center right beside it. However, just to go the extra mile for better clearance and space, I am going to remove this. As you can see, it is just 4 kind of clips. So I'm going to stick 2 flatheads on the one side, the far side, and underneath. I have the next one in my hand, and then use my fingers on the other side to pry. Try not to break it, especially with us, you know, I break a lot of things. So let's try not to do that and save some money. Okay, so hands down, the biggest fight is going to be the 10mm nut. that holds the inlet to the turbo. So what you're going to want is, of course, the 10mm. You're going to want a flex socket, but not the U-joint, or I believe these are U-joint. I'm sorry, I don't know the terminology, but you're going to want one of these that could go almost 90, not the swivel ball one. So sorry, yes, you want the U-joint, not the ball and socket. And then a series of extensions. You're going to feed it up through this gap, and that's how you're going to get it to sit on the nut. And of course, once you get it seated, it will seat. I cheated a little bit and used the impact to loosen it up, and then by hand. So you can finally remove the 10mm. Sometimes it may not be quite willing to finally jump off, so a stick magnet with a light is always great to have on hand as well. Now that the three things are now removed, the T20 that holds on the PCV system, the upper flap, which is a 10mm, and the lower flap, which is a 10mm, the turbo inlet is now able to be removed. It is now removed, and you can see how fragile the plastic really is. There's a 10mm flap that would go here, broke off, as we all just witnessed. We can see how small the diameter that feeds into the turbo really is, comparative to the diameter of the Burger Motorsports inlet is. So, without further ado, let's fight to put this on. Remember, these two O-rings, do use some motor oil, some clean motor oil, to grease it up to make sure it is an easier install. I highly recommend having a second pair of hands help you install the turbo inlet. The reason for this is based off the shape. So as you can see, my brother is up top pushing, as while I am underneath guiding the turbo inlet into the turbo itself. This is the best it will seat. We have the first O-ring all the way in, and then you can see that what would be the top of the turbo completely sealing flat with the turbo inlet and the bottom not being able to. So that is the second O-ring, which is not, of course, 100% seated. As you can see as well that the turbo stud, it is knocking into the inlet itself. Once again, has been previously mentioned as well as previously documented. So this is how up top looks, and another reason why we cannot get it to perfectly sit flat. So as you can see, the way how the top of the turbo is flat against this thing would need to tilt downwards. But as you can see, there's no more space to tilt downward. It is literally touching. It would actually need to pull up a little bit. So because of that at the bottom is the best it will seat. So if you do have OCD, that is one thing to consider. However, as you know, the cold side of the turbo is sucking in, not pushing out, so I do not think it will unseat. So the last step would be to rebolt this PCV system, however, and it provides with the screw provided. However, I do have a separate video and idea for this, so I'm personally going to keep it unbolted. I already told you the story of the coupler, how it will not fit the stock or my aftermarket intake. However, I just want to have it on there for the visual reference. Now that we all saw how the turbo inlet looks and fits, it is up to you to decide whether you want to run it or not. Like I said, MST and CTS Turbo also have their own, as well as Pure had theirs for a long time now. They do have a two-piece design where the inlet to the turbo snout actually is a separate piece from the silicone, so it actually utilizes the 10mm bolt on for the turbo stud. However, me being X-Drive, I personally didn't mind this being friction fit only, because trying to put that 10mm nut back on would be tight. Also as well, right near the PCV intake outlet, there is no 10mm earlobe to tighten on there, just like the plastic factory stock. Once again, I personally don't mind it. However, I can see how some would like it to be something a little more stable, also considering the bottom is not bolted down. So, Burger Motorsports, please, I hope you guys make these improvements in the future. As you know, the N55 community is still forever growing and growing very strong. However, the product as is, I got a secondhand brand new, and I got a really good deal. Brand new price. I personally wouldn't get this as get something a little more comparable and better fit and finish. However, I'm happy with the metal one. Thank you everyone for watching N55 Morris again. Like, subscribe, and check you guys next time.